All right, hello guys. Hey, it's me again. I'm back with another book review. I got another one what they call one-shot book here off of my bookshelf that I think you guys really should read. And this one comes from the awesome world of Brandon Sanderson. I'm gonna tell you. Most people know Brandon Sanderson. Obviously, he was the guy that was that was selected by the widow of the late Robert Jordan, Miss Harriet Dugall at Tor Publishing, to finish out the final what would be at the time. It was not the final three books of the Wheel of Time series, but it was supposed to be one huge, ginormous book called Memory of Light. But anyways, it was split up blissfully into three outstanding books. And anyways, that being said, Harriet selected Brandon Sanderson to complete that, and most people are familiar with Brandon Sanderson due to that. And obviously he had some work done on I think he's working on his own what you would call a magnum opus at right now, but the Stormlight Archives. But nonetheless, Brandon Sanderson here. I've got to tell you, this guy is one of my favorite new artists, and unlike I will say this, unlike your George R.R. Martins of the world, Brandon Sanderson is one of the very few authors, and every author is different. I will say this: every author's got their own pace, and every author's got their own way of doing things, their own pace, and their own method. You know, each one's successful, obviously, because they're published. So you can't say one's better than the other one. But I will say this: Brandon Sanderson is a freaking factory. I mean, the rate that this guy shells out novels, and not just short stories and crap either. I mean substance and everything else that he puts in it, makes characters and everything. Brandon Sanderson is like a factory. I mean, he shells out 1,000-page books like it's nobody's business. And I mean, we're still waiting. It takes George R.R. Martin what? It takes him 5 years to come up with to come up with a good book, and people are just waiting on the edge of their seats for it. Which maybe that's kind of why he does that, because then everybody's just so crazy to go out and finally get the other half of a Feast of Crows, or a Feast for Crows or whatever, or Dancing with Dragons finally comes out. But anyways, but like I said, Brandon Sanderson shells these things out like he's his own man-made factory of books. But there's one of them that's a jewel that a lot of people don't know. But we're finally getting a broad picture of Brandon Sanderson's world now that is uniquely his own, and it's finally connecting all these very small books that he's wrote previously or released somewhat on his website at I think it's at BrandonSanderson.com, which this one is too. The one that we're reviewing right now today is going to be Brandon Sanderson's Warbreaker, which is I think once again it's every one of his books is so unique in their own way. And like I said, seemingly not connected until now. Like I said, we've gotten into the second book of the Stormlight Archive, and we're starting to see now where all these big things and all these multiverses and everything that I don't want to give all this stuff away are starting to connect in a way that I'm starting to see, and I think other fans of his that's read all of his other books are starting to see is connecting in a way that Brandon Sanderson, his world and his mind it's fascinating. And I can see why Harriet chose this guy to finish out the Wheel of Time, because Sanderson is a master at magical systems. I mean, this guy can. I mean, if he had the Mistborn series of books. He's had in each one of his books the magical system is different somewhat. But there's always it always works. There's always it's plausible, it's workable, and it's always logical. So when it goes to it, even though it sounds way out there, especially in this book that I'm going to talk about here, it finally starts to work within what he set up. And now in Warbreaker, we have all kinds of things going on here. We have something called the concept of biochroma, which is basically what happens is some of the characters in the book who possess the ability are able to suck in color from things how there's different hues or colors in a fabric, such as my Oklahoma Sooners. Theirs is a crimson red as opposed to the Arkansas Razorbacks cardinal red. There's different hues and textures of colors. There's different tones and depths of voices and all these different things. And when one accrues so many of these chromatic powers, biochromatic powers, they're able to use those things to give certain inanimate objects that wouldn't normally have life, give them certain attributes. And you will find that in this book. There is a definite quarter. And of course people go about attributing these different and the more of these things that you accrue, you reach certain levels of biochromatic power, and of course the higher the level that you obtain, the more abilities that you are able to do. And like I said, as you go and read through the books and through this book, you will eventually, like I said, get this particular system of biochroma that is used in Warbreaker. But breaking down the story here in a nutshell, you have the story of two princesses, the Vivina and Ciri, and they're two very different characters. The father is trying to marry Vivina, which is obviously who he thinks she's the oldest. She's the one that is she's the responsible one. She's the one that knows all about how the dignified life of how to get married and how that she would attract a suitor, and the whole 9 yards into that whole situation about how that would go about happening. And well, then you have Ciri, which is obviously the entire opposite, the one that you want to make sure is never around when the dignitaries or the would-be suitors that you want to try to create an alliance with the country, keep her out of the room, because she's the wild, the crazy one that likes to go have fun and ride horseback and do the undignified thing that's not ladylike, like her older sister, Vivina. Well, obviously, and there's this big war up there between these people that's fixing to invade Talar, and so he's wanting to kind of secure these people and keep them off his butt by marrying Vivina off to these people. Well, obviously things kind of go wrong with this thing, and long story short, and okay, well, guess which daughter accidentally is the one that gets shelled off up there to Talar. Anyways, yes, right, exactly, Ciri. Well, she gets shelled off, and she's supposed to marry this god king that's supposed to be the embodiment of the highest level of this biochromatic power. He's supposed to be able to, he can hold up a piece of paper and speak to it, and this paper could come to life and do all kinds of crapping things. So this whole time, this kind of, it doesn't, Vivina's searching for who her new identity is now, because now, this was what she's been training for her whole life to be, is to be a, this ambassador. And now her sister has stepped in, and she's taken that place. And now what does she do? I mean, here she is. But anyways, the whole story goes down, and then you've got Vasher, this guy, which he comes in there, and the story opens up with him with this biochromatic life, and he's breathing it into this blade called, and this blade can, it does all these different powers, and I don't want to give too much away about the blade, because the blade kind of shows up in something else, which like I said, I don't want to give it away, because I'm one of those guys like old Robert Jordan. I'm old school, and I'm RAFO, which is read and find out, but it's called Knight's Blade, I think, and basically it shows up again in another one of Sanderson's books, and it further connects these things, and nobody thinks about this book until like I said later on, where this connects. But like I said, nobody thinks it does. That now all of these Sanderson books are starting to connect to this major magnum opus that he's working on now, the Stormlight Archive. And like I said, it's amazing. This story itself is great, and it goes into detail about the prehistory of these people, and what led to this, and why they've got this deal. And they even go to these ancient city where there's these god people that are actually sacrimoniously killed, and they're resurrected back to become gods, and they don't remember any of their previous lives, because obviously they were killed, but they remember certain memories, but they can't remember exactly who they were. But they've been given new names like Light Song and different things, and they've been told that they're a god. Well, you don't know who you were. You were a human in your previous life, but you don't know who you were. But all of a sudden, your new consciousness is here. You are. You woke up, and you're told you're a god now, and you've got all these awesome powers, and people are coming to you and bringing you gifts, and you're supposed to bless their children, and all this stuff. And well, so anyways, they go to this god city, and all this thing is going on, and the whole story is just so amazing. And this whole city, and like I said, at the center of it all is this God King, who's supposed to be the dog of the dog. Well, and there's a whole backstory about, well, what's happening? Is he really the guy in charge here, or is there some kind of secret power behind the throne, or does this guy even know what's going on, or may he be a little captive of something? Does he even have any say, or is he just along for the ride? What's going on with this thing? Mystery abounds in this book, and like I said, once you get beyond learning how to figure out the whole magic system, and it's kind of complex, but I implore you, stick with this, because it is worth the read. Chapter 21 and 22, obviously, Sanderson sprinkles in his awesome bits of humor that had me rolling, especially with Siri and the God King alone. And she's supposed to help him produce an heir to get a new God King, and that had me rolling. It was hilarious. But like I said, and I don't want to give away too much away for that, but I'm telling you, once you get beyond the complex magical system, and you finally get that down, and you can get it, I urge you, go to the back of the book first and read the Ars Arcanum at around page 653, and get the magic system down so that it's not confusing to you, and then go back and then begin to read the book. That way you're not confused by trying to understand the magic system, and you can get that away from it and then focus on the story itself, which Sanderson does a breathtaking job at. And so like I said, you can either, like I said, you can pick up the paperback edition, or Sanderson usually makes updates to it sporadically on his website, and which is another great thing. Brandon Sanderson is very, very interactive with his fans If you will go to BrandonSanderson.com, he will make additions, and there are rough drafts to almost several of his books, lots of his books that wasn't published that you can read and kind of get where he was coming from, or what he nixed, or what he was thinking, and then he kind of didn't go, especially on things like the Way of Kings and the Words of Radiance and stuff. And you can kind of get where his train of thought was going on a lot of his books. So I urge you to read Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. It was one of his. It was definitely a good book, and a lot of them you can read right there online without purchasing it. But I would go ahead and, like I said, I'm an old school guy where I gotta have a book in the hand, but you could read it right online, and I urge you to visit BrandonSanderson.com and pick up Warbreaker and enjoy it. From my bookshelf to yours, I highly recommend this book, and go give Brandon Sanderson a visit and tell him I sent you.